One person was killed and at least 15 injured in one of Russia's largest aerial attacks on western Ukraine on Thursday, despite recent talks that aim to hammer out a peace deal. A strike in the western city of Lviv killed one person and injured 3 others, Ukraine's emergency services said. The region's governor reported the blast damaged 26 residential buildings, a kindergarten, and several office buildings. A wave of missile and drones also caused fires at a large electronics plant in the city of Mukachevo. Russia has continued its barrage of strikes against Ukraine, despite high-level peace talks focused on finding an end to the war earlier in the week. US President Donald Trump sparked cautious optimism by suggesting the US would take part in providing security guarantees for Ukraine in a post-war agreement. Kyiv has said assurances against future Russian aggression are a key element for it to agree to a peace deal.
Where will the meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin take place? The arrest warrant by the International Criminal Court for abduction of Ukrainian children puts Russia's president at risk of detention in any of the ICC's 125 members if Putin steps into their territory. But some countries are ready to make an exception and promise not to arrest Putin if he comes for the meeting, which could put an end to Russia's war against Ukraine. Switzerland, a signatory to the ICC, is a possible option. The country's foreign minister said Switzerland would be ready to host Russian president for any peace talks on Ukraine, despite an existing arrest warrant for him. Austrian Chancellor also weighed in, saying his country, also a signatory to the ICC, supported any initiative leading to just and lasting peace that protects Ukrainian and European security interests. Now, where else could this meeting take place? The Middle East could be a solid compromise location. In March, Saudi Arabia hosted US delegations for the talks, first with Ukrainian and then Russian officials. The meeting also could take place in Qatar or the United Arab Emirates. Now, these countries are believed to be among the most possible options. Euronews correspondents from Dubai and Doha explain why.
Now the question is, why Qatar? Despite being a relatively small Gulf state, Qatar firmly has a seat at the international table and is frequently called upon to be a go-to mediator in several international conflicts. Those mediation efforts include Russia and Ukraine. Just last month, Qatar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced it had successfully reunited 100 children with their families. During his recent visit to Doha in May, U.S. President Donald Trump praised Qatar for its efforts in regional stability and particularly crisis diplomacy in Gaza, Syria, and Lebanon. Qatar believes mediation efforts are a core tenet of its foreign policy and a clear indicator of its soft power.
Why the United Arab Emirates? Well, the UAE has deliberately shaped its role as a diplomatic broker, a state able to move between rival powers while maintaining credibility with both. That strategy has extended directly to the war in Ukraine. Earlier this year, Emirati officials helped arrange exchanges that brought home Ukrainian prisoners of war, along with children taken to Russia. It was a reminder that Emirates can act where others have limited reach. At the same time, Abu Dhabi has preserved its dialogue with Moscow. Earlier this month, President Mohammed bin Zayed travelled to Russia for talks with Vladimir Putin, a meeting that highlighted the trust that both sides placed in the relationship.
Belarus and Iran, 2 of Russia's closest allies, signed agreements on Wednesday to boost bilateral ties in key areas, including defense, their governments announced. Presidents Alexander Lukashenko and Masoud Pezeshkian signed a package of 13 documents in Belarus's capital, Minsk. Both governments have been placed under heavy international sanctions, limiting potential trading partners. Pezeshkian said Iran would help Belarus to neutralize such measures, citing Tehran's decades of experience circumventing Western economic restrictions.
Мы готовы с вами сотрудничать по вопросам от обеспечения продовольствием вашей страны населения до военно-технического сотрудничества. Еще раз подчеркиваю, здесь нет никаких секретов, мы не дружим против кого-то, мы все делаем на благо наших народов, иранского и белорусского народа.
The two parties did not disclose any further details on how the countries intend to cooperate in the defense sector. Other areas covered by the agreement include industry and tourism, as well as joint initiatives in science, technology, and education.
Rising temperatures are bringing harvests for French winemakers forward in 2025. This year in Gironde, intense summer heat brought the harvest forward by a week, particularly for the grapes used in white wine production. Last week, grape clusters intended for white wines faced temperatures approaching 40 degrees Celsius and a lack of water, straining the berries and accelerating the ripening process. For wine growers, summer heat is increasing on a yearly basis.
Le changement climatique rappelle aujourd'hui beaucoup plus des climats méditerranéens. En réalité, par ce réchauffement, on retrouve aujourd'hui une signature beaucoup plus méditerranéenne.
The more the grapes are exposed to the sun, the higher their sugar content increases. It's this sugar that, through fermentation during the winemaking process, transforms into alcohol, creating wines with a higher alcohol content. With more good vintages due to increasing temperatures, the wines are now of a higher quality, but are also heavier. This creates a problem for white wines in particular, as drinkers are not typically keen on white wines with over 14% alcohol.
AI school came out from that urgent need that we need to do something about the evolution of AI and to make sure that women and girls are not left behind. We prepare them for protected jobs, for insulated jobs, where they also need to transition from those jobs who have high chances of being automated or affected by AI to a job that will be more will be assimilated or will be augmented by AI. 44% out of 153 AI systems that was analyzed exhibited gender bias. So, and that comes from bias in the data that the AI has been trained on, because the data that AI has trained on is the whole internet, and our internet is biased.
To be a twist. There needs to be this is your film, it's your choice, and what you're doing is great, but you gotta remember your audience. You gotta remember the boys. Now, these boys, they might be 45, they might be 8, they might be French, and they come to us, Joe. For why? For guns? Yeah.
You know, the spectrum of casting has changed dramatically, fantastically so, and for the absolute right reasons. So I think this is a product where we can say, has it been left behind? And that's exactly the questions that we throw up. And certainly there are many social issues and issues within the casting environment that do certainly get debated in this to a certain extent, but in a very comic fashion.
You've read Casino Royale? I've read all the books. Wow.
Wow.
What is it to be British now? What is it to be a spy now, to want to serve your country? And I think that's the interesting thing. I think it could be anybody. It could be, you know, I think oftentimes there's a conversation around Idris Elba should be the next Bond. And I think that I'd be really interested in perhaps like a South Asian actor as a Bond. I think it's more than sort of black and white. I think British identity is so much more than that.
People call it liquid Viagra.
Malcolm, your favorite.
Will French people travelling outside the EU be subjected to stricter tax controls? A video has gone viral on TikTok that claims that any French person traveling outside the EU from September this year will automatically be reported to the country's tax authorities and subjected to stricter controls. It has garnered 1.5 million views. It states that when someone boards a plane in France to leave Europe, they are signing up for an automatic tax audit upon their return. People's passport data will reportedly be cross-checked with income declarations. If they don't comply with requests for extra info, this is followed by stricter checks on income, a possible summons, and a fine of up to 10,000 euros. The author refers to this new procedure as the automatic travel verification system. The video is published by the TikTok account Passion Mondiale FR, which claims to offer daily information and news and has 17.5 thousand followers. The video has sparked outrage among thousands of internet users. One person said, "Welcome to the new North Korea," while another said this was more than harassment. However, the claims made about such a new measure in France are false. The author says that the news was announced by the Interior Ministry and then picked up by reputable news organizations, including BFM TV, Le Parisien, and France Info. But searches for such reports from these media and other well-known media yielded nothing, and no information can be found about such a measure on any French ministry website. Moreover, tax issues and controls are the responsibility of the Ministry of Economy and Finance, not the Interior Affairs. Another clear sign this is fake news. A spokesperson for this ministry confirmed here or verified that the claims made in the video were fake and that no such measure is being introduced in France. Finally, a look at the other content on the TikTok channel behind this video is further proof that the content is not to be trusted. Several videos feature AI-generated presenters. Other videos make fake claims, for example, that low-income households have to justify shopping for over 100 euros.